Again, that I did not develop this diet. This diet was developed by a master. And I will not change one word of what he told us. People have come up, oh, Elaine, sourdough bread is okay. No way will I change one word of that master. I went into that university to find out why. And I found so much information, Wilma. It is actually breaking out of the medical library walls. It is lying there, gathering dust. I spent 12 years there. You just don't go in to learn nutrition. You cannot learn the way food affects the body by taking nutrition courses. You've got to take immunology. You've got to take genetics. You've got to take years of biochemistry. This is a very, very integrated, sophisticated science. People go away for a weekend and take a course, a seminar, and come back and call themselves a nutritionist. And you have a dozen bottles on your counter, and you take this one and that one, and that's really not real nutrition. You've got to really understand the way the body is affected by various foods, especially the digestive tract. Because you can take every good food in the world and eat it, and that does not ensure you that that is nourishing you properly if you are not digesting it properly.
Right. So there's a saying, you are what you eat, but I've learned that isn't the way it is. It's what you can assimilate.
Absolutely.
That makes the difference.
What you do not digest, you do not absorb, you do not assimilate.
Right.
And that is with the tricky part. What you do not digest and absorb goes down to the lower part of the gastrointestinal tract and overfeeds that unseen world of bacteria and yeast. So the optimal thing to do is to digest your food. Those bacteria and yeast, yes, they eat the fiber in your food, and they get along quite nicely. But if you do not digest the starches and the lactose and the sucrose, which people with these disorders can't digest, you are overfeeding them. And they are growing by leaps and bounds. They begin crawling up the small intestine. That's where you get your Crohn's disease. It usually hits that one area of the small intestine adjacent to the colon where the bacteria are growing. And bacteria do not belong in the small intestine, but by golly, they're getting up there. But anyhow, after the 12 years, by this time I'm almost 60 years old, and I had been invited to do a PhD at medical school, and I realized that if I spent another 10 years there, the information was not getting to the people. And I was still at heart, my first priority was getting information to people such as Herb and I had been, who were struggling for information. For 3 years, we were almost destroyed because we could not get any information. We kept saying, surely what she eats has something to do with it. Food has nothing to do with it. Food has nothing to do with it. And people are still being told that food has nothing to do with digestive problems. That is ludicrous. So I wanted to get this information out to the parents and the spouses and the people who were taking care of loved ones and didn't know what to feed them. They're told, feed them what agrees with them. Well, you can't figure that out because you can eat something in the morning that can affect you at night or the next day. So I realized after the 12 years that I better get out there in the real world again. And I began teaching at the community college. And my students began calling me and asking me to do private consulting. And in 6 years, I did 400 cases of Crohn's disease, colitis, diverticulitis, celiac disease. They were not doing well on the gluten-free diet, spastic colon, irritable bowel syndrome, and I found out that the diet was working almost 95% for small intestinal Crohn's. Within 4 weeks, these people were being turned around. It was working about 75% for the colitis condition, which my daughter had. That one is the most difficult to turn around. A lot of flare-ups during the first year until you can get straightened out. And sometimes in the first month, they find the diet is having no impact. And I tell them in the book, it is probably not going to work for you. But in 75% of the cases, they will improve considerably or get better. Diverticulitis is the easiest one to turn around of all.
Well, that's interesting.
Very interesting.
That's
yes, very interesting. Yes. And at any rate, at that point in time, I realized that I had the theoretical training that I had in the 12 years, that I had the practical experience from the 6 years of consulting, and we wrote the first book called Food and the Gut Reaction. And guess what? It became a bestseller in Canada. You know, we couldn't get anyone to publish it because the publishers kept saying to us, there aren't enough people out there who would be interested in a book on gastrointestinal disease. I've got news for you, publishers.
Right.
I've got news for you. There are at least 10 million in North America alone. And in fact, the book, you don't have to go on the diet when you buy the book, but you learn a lot about the digestive tract. But at any rate, we were on a show, a TV show similar to yours. It's on every day it comes out of Toronto. And I was on for 10 minutes after the book had been out 2 years, and in 10 days, we shipped out 23,000 books, which is only saying one thing, that the people out there are salivating for this information. They cannot get it anywhere, and the library is breaking at the seams with it. So what I've done, what I did in my first book, and what I expanded in the second book, Breaking the Vicious Cycle, was to get the research data and put it together in my hypothesis. The diet is Dr. Haas's, but I went, and in light of all the research, there is so much research being done. In light of all the research which has been currently done, I've put it together in what we call a hypothesis. This is to explain why it's working. It may not be accurate. Maybe somebody will come up with another hypothesis 2 months from now. Fine, be my guest. But this was the best I could do. So, and then that's the first part of the book. And the second part of the book is the recipes. So as someone once said to me, don't worry if I don't understand every word, Elaine, although there are pictures in there to help them understand it. And I think most people do. Don't worry, I'll go in the kitchen and cook. So we have some very easy recipes in there. For example, the children just love the banana pancakes for breakfast. We can't give them cereal because they're made with grains, you know. So we have a lot of recipes to substitute. We have banana pancakes. All you do is beat up an egg, mash a banana in it, and you fry them out, and the kids love them, a big omelet.
I wish we could share one of those with you right now.
Very inexpensive. Make them in 3 minutes, less than that. We have some gourmet recipes people have sent me that are really good. They take a little longer. Some people love to be gourmet cooks, and they wouldn't mind them. We have a recipe in there for lunch that costs 15 cents to make. And my husband and I have them every day for lunch. They're called Herb's Bean Pancakes. My husband invented them. All they are is a cup of pureed legumes, white beans, with an egg, a little onion, and baking soda. We fry them into 4 nice big brown pancakes, and they have starch in them. You see, the diet has everything. It just eliminates certain starches which have been found to be bothersome and to be not good for these people.
Okay, now, we want to differentiate here that we're talking about a different type of diet than the rotation diet, because this is what a lot of people are turning to is a rotation diet. Don't eat anything more than so much or it'll build up and you become allergic to it then. But as Elaine begins to unfold what this is really all about, she's touched on it a little bit, but to get into understanding it better, maybe we could take your chart on the digestion and you could explain that just a little bit for the people.
Okay, and I would also like to make a comment, if you don't mind, that there is a similarity between, there is a common denominator between the rotation diet. It helps a lot of people. The reason is we're both of us are working with the immune system. Right. The rotation diet is used because of food sensitivities, and the principle being that if you skip a few days between eating certain things, they're not going to aggravate your immune system. But in fact, the latest research is showing that the reason the immune system is developing all these allergies is because of the overgrowth of bacteria and yeast in the intestinal tract. I mean, they do have a similarity, and they're not contradicting each other.
But they're
both dealing with the immune system. That's why I said you have to know your immunology when you're working in this area. So, in fact, if people are happy with the rotary diet, be my guest if it's helping them. The idea is, though, that what we're trying to do with this diet is to decrease the overgrowth of yeast and bacteria in the colon, because that is the incubating tank. That is where normally yeast and bacteria will grow, down there in the colon. Mm-hmm. And when when people develop these disorders and they continue eating the so-called normal diet, it is impossible for this sick intestinal tract to digest the starches and the lactose and the sucrose. And so, and the reason it's impossible, because it has been shown in 25, 35 years of research that they lose the ability to digest these things because of things that are even happening in the upper part of the small intestine. So what we have to do is eliminate those sucrose and lactose and some of those starches so that they won't go down to the colon and overfeed the bacteria, because all these guys down here, these bacteria and yeast, want to do is make babies. They want to multiply, they want to proliferate, and that's all they're interested in. And when they overgrow, that's where the problems come in, because they produce gases, they produce toxins, which will poison the entire system. That's why the neurological problems manifest themselves, why the skin problems manifest themselves. So what we've intervened, and we're using carbohydrates such that we know are easy to assimilate. And so they're getting a well-balanced, nutritious, varied diet. But it takes a great deal of scientific know-how in nutritional biochemistry to know which